I'm especially grateful for the longstanding partnership and friendship between Change Machine and the Center for Social Development at the Washington University in St. Louis. Many of you have heard me say this before, but it bears repeating that this body has been so critical to forging a new field, but also shaping innovative approaches. Leaders like Julie Birkenmeyer, Jane Wong, Lissa Johnson, Gina McClendon, and Margaret Sheridan are empowering the social work field to reclaim its past and charge into the future. And together with my co-discussants, Margaret Libby, Kathy Mann, and Christy Finsel, who are, to borrow a tech term, democratizing the delivery of strategies that build financial security. And I hope that all of you will recognize your influence and see your fingerprints all over this opening plenary. So I'd like to kick off our conversation today with an easy exercise, one that will engage you in collective reflection. So I'd like everyone to take a moment to think about one emotion or a mood or a state of being that's prevailed for you this past year. I know, right? That's going to be really hard to narrow it down to one singular feeling, but maybe just a word or two. I know that's a challenge, but more than likely, among all of us, among all of our friends and our colleagues in this Zoom room, we will capture all of the runner-ups. Thank you, Trina, for being first at it. Stretched, definitely. Worried, definitely. Exhausted, yes, lots of really strong feelings. Absolutely. Stressed and overwhelmed. Tired, I can vouch for that too. Fantastic. Introspective. Awesome, thank you. Fantastic. And reflective. Fantastic. I really appreciate that, everyone. Thank you. Gratitude. So a mix of both negatives and positives. So thank you, everybody, for indulging me and participating. I appreciate that. Well, when I reflect on the last year, I'm reminded of the women for whom I worked at the Brooklyn Legal Aid Society back in the mid-1990s, really career-defining work that led to the founding of Change Machine. I was a paralegal at the time, and I advocated for public assistance recipients to avoid sanctions and maximize their budgets. And in doing so, I learned two critical lessons. One, that managing personal finances is especially perilous and high risk for Black and brown women. And two, that our systems are designed to devalue and extract their ingenuity, the tenacity that one masters when you're managing a daily and persistent crisis. The women with whom I worked were in a permanent state of survival. So when I reflect on the past year, the ongoing public health and economic crises, our country's reckoning with inequity and racial injustice, and the sobering fragility of our democracy, it feels a lot like survival to me as well. As practitioners, we're naturally concerned with the systemic issues that keep our customers in a state of survival, whether it be the digital divide, the internet breathing new life into predatory products and services, or the hypocrisy in how essential workers are paid compared to their CEO counterparts. But at the same time, as social workers, financial coaches, practitioners whose process is driven by passionately held, forward-thinking, assets-oriented financial goals of our customers, I know we're also concerned with the systemic issues that prevent our customers from thriving. So I'm going to spend some time here with you today by first acknowledging the dangers of what we're calling techno-saviorism, the idea that technology is a silver bullet that can solve poverty. And then I will argue that digital finance's primary goal should be to shrink the racial and gender wealth gaps. The unparalleled multi-layer crisis we find ourselves in today has only pulled the curtain back on deep-rooted structural inequities. And in response, we must employ every solution at our disposal, especially tech, to uproot them. This not only includes the present trillions of dollars in government spending, but seismic measures like baby bonds, universal basic income, healthcare and childcare for all, to ensure that those who have been historically pushed to the margins are centered in our society and can not only survive, but thrive. It is only then, through this recalibration, that we can achieve an equitable economy. So, back to why we as practitioners, community members, scholars, stakeholders have reason to be concerned. And let's start with by acknowledging that tech's ability to accumulate and wield power is unquestionable. The fact that I'm addressing 85 plus of you here via Zoom, perhaps while your wrist candy reminds you to stand and stretch, or maybe your preferred news app keeps you abreast of the latest on Kim and Kanye, demonstrates the extent to which tech is baked into our daily lives. But what I'll address here is the less incidental, but just as omnipresent concern that technology will continue to perpetuate the same power struggles that define our society today, unless we expect different inputs and that we demand better outcomes. As practitioners, we're all pretty familiar with how racism and sexism shows up in our work. For example, as the tax season gets underway, we know that wealthy filers will be rewarded for their entrepreneurial approach to the tax code, while earned income tax credit filers, disproportionately Black and brown women who head their households, will navigate up to 5 definitions of a qualifying child. White supremacy invites mistakes and then proceeds to personalize and penalize those mistakes. And so it's depressing, but ultimately unsurprising, that well-established systemic inequities are being replicated and amplified in the tech sector. For example, as the social safety net moves online and means-tested supports are delivered via technology, the purpose of the dysfunction becomes even more obvious. From welfare reform all the way through skyrocketing unemployment insurance benefit claims as a result of COVID, underutilization rates of public assistance are quite intentional. Complexity, time, and friction, the tech sector's term for red tape, are features, not bugs, of the digital welfare state. Another example, the for-profit advertising model or lead generation in tech speak are full of traps that perpetuate poverty, like proprietary schools or sometimes called diploma mills that target people who previously searched for payday loans in their digital advertising campaigns. The internet tracks cookies that often extracts a high cost to privacy. Turning back to COVID, the overnight shift to a cashless economy, even for those with bank accounts, came with a tech premium as banks closed branches and CARES Act payments went the quickest to those who could manage the system. Just last week, a report from Brookings stated that consumers spent $66 million in check cashing fees to access their CARES Act checks. Tech is not an innocent bystander of today's inequity and inequality crises. When you connect these dangers against the larger societal forces around social media and corporate abuses of consumer data, the tech lash is unsurprising and the scrutiny is needed. But yet, left alone, unchallenged or underutilized, the tech sector is more likely to leave out and leave behind the communities we care about. The same communities that need to be intentionally included and centered in the broader work of undoing injustice and insecurity. So what if we didn't leave tech alone? What if instead we expected a lot more from it? At Change Machine, when we imagine our big, hairy, audacious solution, those ideas that if and when we're able to realize them could actually close the racial and gender wealth gaps, we embrace technology as a major, if not central tool. We believe that tech can and should wield its power to challenge and change the policies and the practices and the beliefs that harm the communities that we all serve. We also know that in order to achieve this level of impact, tech must engage practitioners and customers as subject matter experts. When this happens, tech can yield significant improvements in terms of scale, impact, and agency for our customers. And we know this firsthand. At the most basic level, technology has allowed us at Change Machine to exponentially increase the scale and scope of our mission, building financial security. About 10 years ago, when we were the financial clinic, we added capacity building to our wheelhouse. In addition to working directly with customers on a one-on-one financial coaching context, we provided technical assistance and training to other social service providers across the spectrum to embed financial coaching practices and strategies into their work. And we quickly realized that we couldn't keep up with the demand, both from a staffing perspective and as well as a cost perspective. The $5,000 FedEx bill shipping dozens of 3-ring binders to a partner across the country still haunts me. And so we begin to imagine what our capacity building work would look like in a virtual environment. In short order, we mapped out a learning management system to lift the materials from a financial education context to an action-based tools that transform it into financial coaching. A database for measuring customer progress and programmatic performance, and a forum for practitioners to connect with one another, solving issues and comparing notes on what's working. When we used tech to execute this vision, we didn't just end up as a vendor with a software as a service product, but as a dynamic and fast-growing community of practice as well. In the first year after we soft launched with just the partners that we had trained, not even opening it up to the general public or social services broadly, just for our immediate community, the platform users served more customers than my team did in our whole 7-year history. Once we appreciated the multiplier effect for people served and the outcomes they achieved, we started to get curious about the power of the insights that our customers were generating in those coaching sessions could be related and leveraged for influencing our broader work to shift systems and narratives. For example, our platform data facilitated our appreciation that educational goals were a powerful motivator for tax time savings, inspired by research led by Dr. William Elliott, demonstrating that among low and middle income children, 529 savings accounts, even at small amounts, dramatically increased the likelihood of undergraduate enrollment and graduation. We partnered with the Citizens Committee for Children in New York to leverage our data and results to advocate for the passage of Refund 529. And now, New York State tax filers can save for college directly from their state refund. Based on early results, we estimate that some 280,000 filers will contribute over $6.5 million to college savings for their families just in the first 5 years of implementation. So hopefully, as I've made evident, technology can elevate what's already working for people and make a structural solution. Between multiplier effects like training and capacity building, our systemic solutions like policy change and technology enables us to increase the magnitude of our mission. For every one person we've served directly, we can trace an additional 18 people whose financial security has improved. A much greater impact than when we were working purely face-to-face and calculating our outcomes in a desktop version of Excel. So in addition to scale and impact, Change Machine is investing in the ways in which tech can be used to challenge existing, often detrimental narratives on poverty. That pull yourself up by your bootstraps myth is a powerful tool that upholds white supremacy and impedes our work with our customers at every turn. Technology can surface what's actually shaping the financial lives of our customers. This not only reveals the systemic barriers we've touched on here today, but also the solutions that our customers are forging for themselves and that we as practitioners, scholars, advocates, stakeholders have a lot to learn from. When tech defers to customers as subject matter experts in their own lives, it can champion customer-led narratives by replicating and amplifying the solutions that Black and brown women deploy regularly. For example, we've built a recommendation engine on our platform that matches customers with fintech products based on their needs and their financial goals. Whether a product remains on the platform over time, though, depends on the ability to actually build customers' financial security and earn positive ratings. We refer to this validation process as a seal of equity. It's designed to hold product makers accountable to the financial success of the Black and brown women we serve, recognizing that those who control the narrative have control. So hopefully that's illustrative. In expecting a lot more from tech, we're striving for scale, impact, and agency, which advance equity in a myriad ways. But let me be clear, our customers are not yet thriving. As nonprofit practitioners and leaders, it is incumbent upon us to hold accountable our partners on the tech side and ourselves to much higher standards. What if we helped prevent some of the most intractable problems from even taking root? What if, in solving for financial insecurity, we also unlocked large-scale innovation? FinTech has referred to itself as only 1% finished. And because of that, we see the extraordinary opportunity to address our society's structural flaws and yet undiscovered potential to achieve an equitable economy. There's a lot about tech that can inform that vision. And at Change Machine, we're pretty jazzed up about some of the possibilities. To wit, what if distributed ledger technology, which are innovative techniques for digitally recording transactions, facilitated identity issues for myriad reasons? Domestic violence survivors, young adults transitioning from foster care, new Americans, for example, must navigate a thicket of issues, accessing, securing, and exercising documentation that communicates their identity, a precursor to building financial security. What if we advanced data as an asset? As consumers, our internet activities and behaviors generate vast data. What if there was a clear and bright line between how a financial institution values that data and the return for the customer? Exactly how does participating in this financial data ecosystem give us a lower cost and more efficient products and services? And then finally, what if our collective knowledge about the power of building assets, the great minds in this Zoom room who wrote the books, and I mean that quite literally, about how poverty isn't going to be solved by income policy alone. What if that knowledge was a design principle for machine learning? Black and brown women who navigate financial insecurity has shown us time and time again that they can, do, and will save. What if all of that extensive research informed high technology like self-driving money? What if the hopes and dreams of the communities we serve actually informed how coders and engineers optimized personal budgets in the same way your car trip is optimized by Google Maps, giving them like a best case route to financial mobility? There are technicians, engineers, and coders working on these concepts as we speak. So now is the time to seize that opportunity and advance our agenda. Fighting back against the systemic inequities that are being replicated and amplified in the tech sector, maintaining these advantages and seizing these opportunities require what we're calling tech for equity. We start by acknowledging that tech is the vehicle through which we will advance the ever-evolving body of work that we as a field continue to nurture. In other words, tech can sometimes get confused, but it is a means to an end. It's not an end to itself. You know who else tends to confuse the means with the ends? The personal finance industrial complex, as Helene Olin calls it. That cottage industry that positions a person brand, or maybe it's a brand / person, their video or their online course as the end goal. In preparation for this, these remarks, I just had to check out the website of one of the biggest brands, and sure enough, she's featuring an ultimate protection portfolio gold box that contains, in the physical gold in the box, an online personal financial course. For real, it's literally a gold box that looks like a briefcase, but yet features the code for an online product. yours for a mere $199. The grift is to confuse the means, the product, the gold briefcase with the goal. But we're not immune. Even with our nonprofit purpose and our intentions in the right place, our field has, on occasion, put outsized faith in particular strategies like free tax preparation or starter bank accounts. These are important ingredients, but we have all come to appreciate that they are not financial security in and of themselves. Nor is my organization free from falling into this trap. We laugh about it now, but once upon a time, we had a nearly year-long debate about the pros and cons of whether we should call it a budget or a personal spending plan. Whole hour-long staff meetings. Eventually, we decided on the mantra, do the math, because we realized that we really wanted to focus on the results. Tech is no different. In the same way we know that a budget is just math, we should hold very close Professor Meredith Broussard's advice that code isn't magic, it's just math. Tech for equity means that we apply what we have already learned, that tech can be a powerful means by which we achieve financial security, but not an end to itself. So, if tech is just a hammer, what's the nail? For all of us in this field, it's a mission that serves our community's needs. The integrity of that mission and the purpose of that vision is our collective end. Needless to say, tech could benefit from this perspective. In addition to the product makers and the technologists, engineers, investors, the tech ecosystem also has an overwhelming presence of academics and intermediaries and think tanks. As far as I can tell, there aren't nearly as many nonprofit practitioners. And when low to moderate income people are infrequently referenced, it's maybe by way of like a focus group result. There is an absolute need for our customers as experts in their own lives, that equity lens, to shape how technology is being created, how it is wielding its power, and for whom. Promises of diversity and inclusion are not enough. We also must deliver. And as mission-driven nonprofit providers, collectively, we have a long history of holding ourselves accountable to our results. Our field in particular has been profoundly shaped by data, outcomes, and results. And first and foremost, we come by it honestly, right? When your day-to-day is household balance sheets and how much debt we've alleviated and savings we've helped accumulate, you tend to be pretty good at counting the beans. But we also came of an age in which philanthropy was more outcomes oriented and expected grantees to be more evidence-based. But even then, our field has also been profoundly shaped of research. Indeed, this very audience, the Center for Social Development, has been an epicenter of the studies and the research that give way to a field that likes to know that we are actually having the desired impact. These shared values of honesty and accountability and outcomes for our customers will serve us well as we leverage tech. At Change Machine, we think learning this lesson will be among tech's greatest challenge, but yet will simultaneously be tech's greatest opportunity for relevance. The real test will be whether tech can function as a tool that enables us to have better outcomes, to influence new frontiers, and forge new dimensions of performance that close the racial and gender wealth gap. Ultimately, the push is in our purpose. Does tech facilitate our mission? Is our intentionality robustly reflected in our outcomes? Is it catalytic of Black and brown women's solutions? Does it lend itself to ending asset limits? Does it solve for complexity, which is a tax on the poor? Does it solve for financial insecurity? And does tech facilitate our vision? Does tech's influence demonstrate measurable influence in closing racial and gender, asset, income, and debt disparities? Is it a tool that contributes to systemic change? These are the questions before us as a field. Reflecting again, going back to the beginning, where you all contributed to the chat about how we felt about the last year. Perhaps now with these questions as our purpose, persistence also comes to mind. thinking about all that we've endured, but yet the equitable economy we're building in front of us, we must persist. Thank you for inviting me here to speak with you today, and I'm really looking forward to the discussion with Christy, Kathy, and Margaret.